And Zane essentially looked at Casey and said, I'm here. You want to chirp? I'm here. And I can't hate on Zane for that. I hated the yell. I thought the yell felt fake.
And let's not forget, at the Fountain Blue a year or two ago, Zane and Dekel made the finals of a PPA, and they are also Austin buddies.
I do think that Zane tried to apologize at the end. Dekel did say something online about how he feels like Zane needs to continue to apologize. I don't know how many apologies is enough. I didn't know there was a certain number we had to hit, but I'll keep that in mind. Maybe that needs to be the next prop bet, right? Maybe that should be or you could do like decibels of screams between Zane and Kate,
That's
like
very similar. Very similar. Welcome in everyone to The Line, and we're just going to get right to it. I'm Adam Stone, that's Jimmy Miller. And Jimmy, just shocking development. Another week of professional pickleball and plenty of things to talk about, from quality play on the court to drama off of the court. This is just something that continues to happen, and us kind of being on the outside looking into this stuff, having this lovely podcast, The Line, give us all the juice and the drama, and we'll happily talk about all of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything from, Zane Navratil and the scream heard around the world. As Dekel, I believe the quote from Dekel was cusses. I've never heard that before. Is that a
I love foreigners.
Cusses it. Like, I've heard someone say you're cussing, but cusses. We had the SoCal, the frisky SoCal Hard Eights almost pulling an upset. We had Rachel Rohrabacher being handed a microphone when she probably shouldn't have been. Let's let Johnny Goldberg settle whatever this is first. We had, it was action-packed. We had the lights go out when Dallas was down in a women's match and then down 4-9 in a men's match. That killed the momentum of the Vegas Night Owls. That was kind of, the home court advantage there.
Wow, I didn't even know that. But actually, we were warming up. First off, Pickler Universe, wonderful facility. But when we were warming up 2 days before the event, the lights went out as well and ended up forcing us to stop our practice a little bit early. So, yeah, I didn't even realize that happened mid-match.
Vegas had won women's, and then they were up 9-4 in men's. All the momentum. Lights go out, delay, kind of slows everything down, and Dallas men come back and win 13-11, and then they end up sweeping both mixed. And I don't know, was Molson over there by the power box, or what are we doing? Like, let's get our tinfoil hats out. What's the conspiracy here? Home court advantage? I'm not sure, but
yeah, and that's funny because in group play for the regular season, I know, even though I'm at the event, I know nothing about the other group. I am like paying zero attention, and that's the exact same thing with this matchup here. All I was worried about was Brooklyn and our 2 out of 3 with them. I didn't even realize some of the things that were happening in other matches. So the momentum killer is a big thing. And then of course, Palm Beach versus Chicago had an abundance of drama and intrigue in that one.
Yeah, I think that's where we've got to start, right? Chicago, I think it was Zoe Weil that said Chicago's an interesting dynamic because you've got, the Unks in Zane Navratil and AJ Kohler, and then you got the kids, right? And Elsie Hendershot and Emma Nelson and JLG, and Jamie Way's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? Like Jamie Way's kind of, she's kind of ideally bridging that gap. They made it to the playoffs. They won 2 massive games in Orlando that they had to have. They get to the playoffs. Palm Beach chooses them, feeling like it's probably a good matchup for them. And Chicago gave them everything they could handle. But what was interesting, men's match, Zane is on the court. He actually bags Casey Diamond. I think it was off of the net, walks up, and he lets out this just insane scream.
And that catches the shoulder of Casey Diamond, Zane Navratil.
And then he turns and does it again. And I'm going to give you my take. I think it felt very contrived and calculated. It didn't feel natural. It wasn't a Kate Fahey natural. It did feel like he was maybe trying to pump up his team, trying to motivate them, like, hey, we're a little bit flat, trying to, be the captain. And then I guess during a timeout, or like there was a point during the match, he went and he cusses at the bench of Palm Beach, yells at Casey and calls him a sissy, but uses a different word. And I guess all of Palm Beach's bench was like, I don't know if you've seen the video of Tyson. Tyson's eyes are like bugging out of his head.
Yes, the Tyson video is hilarious. He just looks
Yes.
like what was that? Like really?
Yeah. He's like, where am I? Yeah. Tyson's over there just having a good time. And he's like, where am I? I guess Zane ends up getting a blue card. And then, as we do in 2026, Adam Stone, we take it to the Twitter, we take it to Instagram. And now there is Dekel and Zane going at it, talking about how Zane needs to apologize. And they're arguing with each other. And Leia jumps in and says, had Kate Fahey done that, you guys would be essentially crucifying her, but Zane doesn't, and everyone thinks it's funny and cool. And so what I was told, or what I heard, now this is a little bit of speculation, but a few months back, Zane made a video of Sophia when she was on the APP, and she essentially there was like a couple matches in a row where there were some very blatant hooks. Now, whether she just missed the call or she was hooking, we'll never know. But he made some videos. He kind of called her out. He was teasing about it, the little talking head in the corner that Zane does. And that really set Casey Diamond off, who says that, chivalry is dead. And he was white knighting for her very hard and searching the interwebs and everybody he could find to get Zane's phone number. I heard that he was sending some veiled threats, like if I see you in person and, blah, blah, blah. And so it feels like maybe this was the culmination of that. And Zane essentially looked at Casey and said, I'm here. We want to chirp. I'm here. And I can't hate on Zane for that. Yeah. I hated the yell. I thought the yell felt fake. I just did. It didn't feel real to me. But I do give him a little bit of respect for, if this is actually how it all went down, to be like, hey, Casey, look.
Right.
We're here.
And the thing is when I saw it, I was like, there's no way that is out of nowhere. So I think there has to be some amount of beef or dislike or whatever you want to call it between the two, where Zane basically premeditated. If I pretzel him up, or if I tag him, or if I hit him in this match, I am going to unleash. And that is 100%. exactly what happened from Zane. And and from my perspective, you saw the yell, you saw the mouthing of the words from Zane, but then in the post-match situation, Zane looked to be very apologetic and like that was too much or that was over the top to a couple different of the Palm Beach players. Yes. And also the Zane and the Dekel back and forth. Dekel used the word unhinged and a couple other things online that I saw. So Dekel was definitely had the protective instincts up for his team, and he did not like the yell. And let's not forget, at the Fountain Blue a year or two ago, Zane and Dekel made the finals of a PPA, and they are also Austin buddies. So there is a lot of inner workings with some of this drama, and the fact that Dekel responded so strongly to that, he really felt that, because it's not like Zane is a random person to him. They're friends, or were friends. I mean,
there may be a little contention at the lab. DeWidgeon may have to get out the boxing gloves. I don't know. Take them out in the back and let them hash it out, but yeah, it did feel like there was a lot of pent up frustration there. I do think that Zane tried to apologize at the end. Dekel did say something online about how he feels like Zane needs to continue to apologize. I don't know how many apologies is enough. I didn't know there was a certain number we had to hit, but I'll keep that in mind. But yeah, it was wild. And honestly, Chicago was frisky and they played well, and they gave Palm Beach everything they could handle, but in the end, Palm Beach pulls it out. They advance. Palm Beach team, I do think that we're seeing some tiny cracks there in the armor of the women that had won 19 in a row. I think they're like 2-3 in their last 5 or something. They did win the first day. It was 12-10, so it does seem like that hot streak is kind of slowed down, and maybe teams have figured them out.
Right. Yeah. And Jimmy, also, maybe it might be literal cracks, because there was a pretty healthy portion of KT tape on the right shoulder of Sophia Seving. And I'm not for sure on that, but she has looked a little less lively with the arm in some of the matches that I have seen over the last handful for her. So do not know 100% if there is a physical issue, but I wouldn't be surprised if she is playing a little bit lower than triple digits, 100. And that is, to be honest with you, is the case for several of the players on these teams after a pretty extensive summer grind of MLP.
For sure. And Adam, now, do you think that, sometimes there's outside noise that comes in that can shift our focus, that can get in our ear, that can cause us to play not at our best. You happen to witness an incident.
Yeah,
America's favorite lefty.
Yeah. So basically, Jimmy, let's go ahead and be clear here. You're the more salacious of the two of us, and you like to bring up the drama a little bit more than I do.
I do.
So, but this thing that I witnessed was not secondhand at all. This was direct, my eyes on the action. And first off, my brief encounters with Sophia Seving and Casey Diamond have been very pleasant. I do not know either one of them particularly well, but they played the match against Chicago and they stayed to watch in the stands, SoCal versus Brooklyn. And when we finished our match with Brooklyn, I was walking off the court and Sophia and Casey were getting into it with Robert Slutsky, who is a local to Dallas. And he is not someone that is a household name, but he's a very good player in his own right. And those two, Sophia and Casey, were having words with Robert Slutsky about some form of online internet feud and also something along the lines of say it to my face if you're going to talk smack. So quite an eventful 2 or 3 hours for Palm Beach, Sophia Seving and Casey Diamond at Pickler Universe in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, look, Slutsky is he is an internet troll, and he loves.
I have no idea.
He loves to fire off kind of funny stuff. He's always in discords, and I'm not sure if his girlfriend realizes that he's homeless yet or not, but he definitely looks homeless. But yeah, I mean, sometimes those things can start to creep in and you kind of hear them in your ear and whatnot. And so it's interesting because, we're focused on, it's the biggest match of probably, I don't want to say their careers, but it's got to be up there. We're playing in the playoffs of MLP. And so it's hard to block. You got to block out that noise sometimes. But Adam, if Polymarket would allow us to wager on boxing matches between MLP players.
Ooh, yes.
Zane and Dekel, I got to think that Dekel's a heavy favorite.
Like 98% to 2. Yes, that kind of heavy favorite.
Yeah, but I think Slutsky and Casey might be more 50-50.
That's close. You got the southpaw over there in Slutsky.
Yeah,
Diamond, right. Pretty good reach. Pretty good reach for Diamond.
He's long. I bet he has a good jab.
That's right. Slutsky's a big boy. So Dekel versus Zane, we really don't need to talk about that anymore at all. But the Slutsky Diamond, that could be a pick'em. That really could be a pick'em.
That would be. Listen, maybe Polymarket. Maybe that needs to be the next prop bet, right? Maybe that should be or you could do like decibels of screams between Zane and Kate.
That's
like
they're very similar. Very similar.
So many prop bets. But on the last episode, we talked about this, and we kind of. I do want to talk about SoCal because I think it did go chalk. In the end, it went very chalk. It went favorites won. But you guys did force a DreamBreaker over Brooklyn the first day. And I think that it does need to be talked about. Number one, Kaitlyn Campbell played phenomenal, I thought. I thought Megan Dazan was great in women's both days. You ended up sweeping women's in both days. And the first day, to be clear, was with Rachel Rohrabacher there.
Yes.
And then Kaitlyn Campbell in the first, with essentially a must-win game, end up beating Riley Newman and Jackie Kawamoto, Kaitlyn and Will. Like that was, I think there was 6 match points or something like that.
Yes.
And those two just ice water in their veins, cold-blooded. Will, I talked to Jackie actually a little bit after, and Will I got to tell a funny story, and I hope she doesn't get offended I tell the story. But she was talking to Chris Hayworth, and he was talking to her about reading, trying to read Will, right? And she's like, well, I can't see it because he pulls, 2 inches off the ground, and it's literally right behind the sign, down the line, and behind where the sign is on the net. And Chris said, what are you talking about? And she's like, the sign on the net? And he's like, you just look over the net. And she said, I'm not 6'4".
No, Jimmy,
I can't look over the net.
This is so real. This
Yes.
happens to me. This happened to me all the time. And it could be a sign or it could literally be the net tape. Like where the ball, while the ball is contacting the paddle, I have to look through the net tape. And I asked Dekel, he was my men's partner for so long. I was like, does this ever happen to you? And he looked at me like I'm an idiot. And I'm like, Dekel, this happens to me multiple times a tournament. I get blocked off from contact. And he's just like, what do you mean?
She was like, she said Chris looked at her like she was crazy. And she's like,
yes.
No, I have to look through the net to read if they're going to pull or not. Like, I don't get to just look over the net like you do, Chris. And she said, Will just disguised it really well. And we saw he kind of blew her up a couple times. And the thing with him is I've mentioned this about some of these other young kids, is their confidence level on every shot is just sky high. Right or wrong, it's sky high. And he was like, look, I am not going to go down sitting here dinking with Riley Newman. I am going to pull, and if we win, we win. I'm going to trust my hands. And it worked. And then the kid goes 5'7" in a DreamBreaker.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and just 4 points. Of course, Chris Hayworth is going to love Will McKinnon, but Chris Hayworth is going to destroy Will McKinnon in a 2 out of 3 singles match. But that weird, funky non-tennis style from Will did give Chris Hayworth some issues 4 points at a time. So, and I will say also with Will McKinnon, sometimes his shot selection does age his coach at times, but he does have a special skill set and some really good hands and some unique speed ups, and his soft game has grown leaps and bounds from the beginning of MLP towards the end. So I will give him a shout out there. And of course, Kaitlyn Campbell deserves one also. She is an absolute monster, so well-rounded. And I know so many things can change in the next 9 months with rules and whatever for MLP, but $40K for Will, $65K for Kaitlyn, $85K for Megan Dazan, $40K for Armand Bhatia, and both Naomi Nguyen and Rafa Leonard at low prices. We have a very nice cost-controlled team, and I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now we may have this floor, the salary floor coming up. We'll see what happens with that. But I mean, it seems like if you wanted to obviously just continue to develop your team, you're in a good spot. If you wanted to go spend and add, you're in a good spot. I think you guys you're a playoff team. And like you said, very, very cost controlled, which is massive. You know, we've seen a lot of this stuff online. We've seen Ross Chaffetz get upset about the spending and the salary caps and getting mad. And every time there's a match that's close, he's like, oh, parity's dead. Oh, I thought it was dead, being sarcastic. But with that being said, every top seed did win, just to be clear. But I think next year, as I look down some of these rosters, and maybe at the end of this season, we can do like a little breakdown, but there are some teams with these new rules, SoCal being one of them, I have at the top, that are going to be in very, very good shape. Because like you said, you have everybody very reasonably priced. You have them for several years, and, you're not going to spend 90% of your salary cap on one player.
Yeah, I mean, if this top tier talent is going to be somewhere between 600,000 and 800,000, which is the range right now with a 1 million cap, like it is going to be thin to fill out those rosters if you have one of the heavy hitters, and that is for sure going to play into it for 2027. And Jimmy, we just received the matchups for round 2 of the playoffs in Newport Beach. We do not have lines up yet on Polymarket, but they will be up there shortly, no doubt. And go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say Polymarket. MLP is officially on the app now for Polymarket. Now you don't have to log in to the actual website. It is available on the app, which is massive. That's huge.
Yeah, it really is. So the number 1 seed New Jersey Fives had the first pick of first off the 4 teams in order of the top 4 seeds: the Fives, the Shock, the Mad Drops, and C-Bus, the Columbus Sliders. And then the 4 teams to pick from that advanced from Dallas this past weekend are Palm Beach, Texas Ranchers, the Dallas Flash, and the Brooklyn Pickleball Team. Fives had the first choice, and they decided they would love to play Palm Beach in Newport.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Here's the reality, and I hope nobody gets offended by this, but the Fives men are their weak link. Now you have Annalie Waters and Georgia Johnson. I'm not saying that they are weak overall, but they are the weak link on that team. And Palm Beach men are the weak link. And so you want to match up your men against the weakest men left in the field. And just based off of records, based off of what's happened so far, I would say Palm Beach have the weakest men left in the field. And so this gives an opportunity, right? You expect Annalie Waters and Georgia Johnson to win. You expect Annalie to probably win her mixed. And now this gives you an opportunity to win that men's matchup and go 3-0 on them and make it a short day.
Right. No, I think that's a fair assessment of the matchup. And I also wanted to ask you, Jimmy, how many times per week does the phrase, "I hope nobody gets offended by this," come out of your mouth?
A lot. Probably
a
far
lot.
too often. Yeah. I mean, And it happens a lot. In fact, on the KOTC podcast, for some reason yesterday, Tyler decided to read the comments from some of our videos. And let's just say that I need to say it more often. I need to say it a lot more often. Because people are getting very offended.
Battery was low. I needed a moment here, but I'm back in business, so we can discuss. So we can discuss matchup number 2, which is the St. Louis Shock having their pick of the next 3 teams, and the Shock decided to match up against the Texas Ranchers, who have been playing really good DreamBreaker ball lately. They have 2 very solid men in Eric Onsens and Nico Acevedo, and they have also been playing very good mixed doubles specifically in the last few times they've been able to get on court. Thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one for me because I think that Eric Onsens and Nico Acevedo are very, very good. Now, Hayden and Gabe know them well. They're friends. They live close to each other. If Hayden and Gabe actually trained, they probably would train together. But they know them well. I think with this one, it's interesting because I do think that the Ranchers probably have the largest gap in ceiling play, or at least recent play, between their men and their women. I think their men are outplaying their women by a huge margin right now. However, Leah Jansen and Kaitlyn Christian are good. Like, they're good players. They're solid players. I think if they can elevate, at least in mixed, the Ranchers have a shot, right? I mean, Eric Onsens, Eric Onsens has to be, in my opinion, he has to be Ben Johns in this. And that means that he has to win his 2. If he can go 2-0, and you end up with a DreamBreaker of, Eric versus Hunter Johnson, or Nico versus Hunter Johnson, whoever you send out first, Hayden versus Nico or Eric, and then you have Leah versus Anna Bright and Kaitlyn versus Kate. I don't know if the Ranchers aren't, I don't want to say favored, but at least we're 50. I mean, if Polymarket were 50-50, 51-49.
They're right there. We'll just say they're right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be close. So I think that's the Ranchers' best chance. I mean, they annihilated Atlanta in both of their DreamBreakers. 14-11? And Atlanta's not
correct, yes.
I don't think Atlanta's a slouch of a DreamBreaker team. And so I do think that if they can get there, if they can figure it out, if they can at least push that 2-2, maybe the Ranchers upset, have a chance to at least steal a game. But 2 out of 3, I don't see the Ranchers beating the Shock 2 out of 3 at all. And honestly, if the Shock went 3-0, nobody's going to be, no pun intended, shocked by that. But I see why they chose that. I think that the Ranchers women aren't playing their best right now, and so that kind of makes sense for me.
Right. And so of those first 2 matchups, I had a couple percentages written down here, and the fives versus Palm Beach is insanely lopsided to me. I just don't see how they can get it done. I actually went all the way up to 94% for New Jersey to win that matchup versus Palm Beach. Love you, Dekel, but that's a tough matchup for you guys. Shock versus Ranchers, still very lopsided, but my percentage for that one was 82% because the Ranchers do have a talented roster, and if they all need to be playing well to beat the Shock, but it is much more possible in my eyes than Palm Beach beating the Fives.
Yeah, look, Dekel's going to be cusses you soon because you picked against them, but I think you're right. Like, I think I would probably say those percentages are pretty close. Texas, I mean, anything can happen, but I just feel like the Shock are going to be too much for them. If I really, if I had to go put my money on it, I think 82% is probably safe. But the third and the fourth matchup is where it gets really, really interesting because LA had a chance to pick Brooklyn with an injured Rachel Rohrabacher. I don't mean this, again, I hope nobody gets offended by this, but if there is a chance that I can face Hannah Blatt, I am choosing that team. Or a hampered Rachel Rohrabacher, right? And I think that the reason that everybody is kind of shied away because they're like, look, when Brooklyn is at full strength, which we have yet to see since Grand Rapids at this point, maybe longer because Christian needed to buy goldfish. But when Brooklyn is at full strength, they're dangerous. The problem is we haven't seen it, right? We haven't seen that team. I mean, Riley had the bruised heel and the injured knee. right? Christian had a birthday party to go to. Rachel had, she's got the injured foot. And I think Hayworth missed time because he was sick, right? I mean, Stefan's played as many games for them as Rachel has recently. I mean, it's Irena's 1-0 as a member of Brooklyn. So when they're healthy, they're dangerous, but it did surprise me that LA didn't choose them. And they picked Dallas, who in MLP San Diego really just smacked them. I mean, Dallas really kicked the crap out of LA when LA had a chance to play for the number one, basically to play in the one spot and to win MLP San Diego. Dallas just came out and J.W. Johnson owned Ben Johns, which is crazy to say, but he was insane. So I'm surprised by that. Are you surprised they chose them?
I have some things to say about that. But first off, I'm going to go 3 podcasts in a row saying my line here. James Walter Johnson is just an absolute champ. So the thing is my team just played Brooklyn. And Christian Alshon is a problem. The guy is extremely hard to game plan against. He has a very special skill set in what he does with his explosiveness and his athleticism. So I think in that regard, really for Brooklyn, it's all about the sliding scale of Rachel Rohrabacher health. Because when you have a lower body injury, it's not just movement. It affects your shots too. Like she doesn't have that same rotational power and the ability to whip through the ball because she is hampered in her lower body. So if Brooklyn has a 100% Rachel Rohrabacher, I would want nothing to do with them. They do not have that. So the Drops had to just kind of figure out what percentage level her health is. They decided that she is probably at a high enough percentage, close to 100, that they don't want to deal with that team. And they're going to go with the Flash, who I think has just between Augie and Alex Trung and Brooke Buckner, fantastic players. But I think that there is just a little bit lower level than the top tier of JW on that team. And even though there's some volatility in Danny L and her level, when she plays very well, it's very high too. Brooklyn, very balanced roster as long as they have all 4 players there and not a lot to pick on. So I think that the LA has decided that they can find a few ways to find chinks in the armor and expose the non-JW Danny L players on the Dallas Flash team. And that while that does make sense, as I said, Augie, Brooke Buckner, Alex Trung, if they play 8 or 9 out of 10 or better, that strategy could come back to bite LA.
Yeah, this gives me Columbus Slider vibes from last year when Dallas chose Columbus and ended up getting beat by them, where LA is choosing Dallas here. I mean, Dallas has now won 14 straight matches, which is pretty insane. They won back-to-back events to finish the season. I mean, they're as hot as anybody right now. But with that being said, I think if Rachel is even 80%, right? You have Rachel and Jackie. Obviously, Jackie knows Jade's game very well. And I think that Jade and Catherine have struggled a little bit this year compared to what they did last year. And so I would say that on paper, the easier women's team would be, Danielle and Alex. I think that at least on paper. And then you probably like your chances of CG and Catherine against Augie, against Augie and Danielle.
Right.
And like you said, it's Jade versus Brooke. You kind of like that matchup a little bit. So it totally makes sense to me, but it would not surprise me if this was our first upset of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that this, I will probably label this a very slight mistake. I think that I would have picked Brooklyn if I were the Drops, but it's certainly not significant. And the percentage I have Drops versus Dallas, I have the Drops at 64% favorites.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I was going to say around 60. I think that's pretty fair. Now moving to the other matchup, Columbus hasn't played in a while. Kind of that team that they got hot. They finally started to put it together. They won San Diego, and I think they haven't played since then, I believe. Daescu is Daescu. I mean, the guy, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but they were up 3-0 in a match, and he came on with Paris. The match is already decided. They already have the 1 seed, and they're down 2-1 or 3-1. And I think they're playing maybe Phoenix. And he looks at Paris and he like eyes just are bugging out. And he was like, hey, let's effing go. P, let's effing go, P. And he's like intense. That game meant nothing to anybody. And Andre was going to bring it 110% no matter what. And that's the guy you want, right? That's the guy you want on your team. That's a guy you can never count out. Paris and Tyra are as good as anybody, I would say, other than obviously AL Dub and, but if Paris and Tyra beat Kate and Anna Bright, I don't think anyone would be surprised.
Absolutely.
And then obviously CJ Klinger, he cut his teeth on the SoCal Hard Eights. The guy's got to be good. So that's another interesting team. But Christian Alshon, like you said, I think it says a lot about him when Rachel is still willing to play mixed because she has him next to her because of how much court that guy can.
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, it's just kind of one of those situations where you pregame, you plan, and then you get out on court, you get punched in the mouth a couple times from Christian Alshon, and the game plan kind of falls apart. And you're just kind of scrambling to figure it out with some of his ability to cover the court so well. So for me, Columbus and Brooklyn with a 100% Rachel Rohrabacher is pretty damn close to a pick'em. I think that I would give Columbus like something extremely close, like 52-48, 54-46, something like that. But from what I've seen recently from Rachel, that is not the case. So I think you have to, nothing crazy in terms of favorite for Columbus, but I would probably go around the low 60s, around the 60% range for Columbus, given the Rachel Rohrabacher situation. But a lot of talent on both rosters, and both rosters, they're balanced. There's not a lot to pick on. And if Rachel's health is around the 50 or 60% mark, then you might have someone to pick on that team. But if it's up in the 80, 90% or above, there's just no easy outs of the 8 players on those two teams. And I think it's going to be a very intriguing and fun matchup to watch in Newport Beach.
Yeah, I think that one is going to come down to, I actually think that Columbus has the better DreamBreaker team. And that one, I think the men it's going to be close, but I think the men on Brooklyn are better because you can throw out Christian and Hayworth. But Andre and CJ aren't slouches. But then I think you have a pretty big advantage, whether it's Paris and Tyra or Paris and Udit, that you can throw out there against, Jackie and Hannah.
Yeah, significant.
With an injured Rachel. Now, Jackie played very well against Megan Dazan. Jackie is, the Kawamotos are sneaky for 4 points.
They are.
They're smart.
The passes were on point from Jackie. You just got to tip your cap there to her. But then you got Crumb de la Crumb, Alex Crumb over there on the Columbus Sliders. So, and also being a single specialist and not playing the match and then jumping into the DreamBreaker is not easy. And there's a variety of players that could be in that scenario in this matchup. And it might be one of those single specialists who is able to come out and play at the top of their game right from the jump. I think Chris Hayworth is somewhere around 50% in his points in DreamBreakers this season. And I know that he has played some doubles, so it's not just been a complete jump into the DreamBreaker spot for Chris Hayworth, but it is not easy 4 points at a time. And whoever just comes out striping groundies and is on point with their passes could be the difference maker in this matchup.
Yeah, you need that guy. Like, it's funny. It's like the NBA sixth man, right? You need that Manu Ginobili, that guy that comes right off the bench and is the Vinny Microwave Johnson, comes right off the bench and can get hot in a hurry, right? And Crumb, I saw something, I think Crumb posted it himself, but something about he's like 16-3 in his last, or 16-5 in his last few DreamBreakers. So he may have found the secret sauce there.
Well, if the stat was 16-3, then I have no doubt that it was Crumb that posted that stat.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure he started like a DreamBreaker club,
Yeah. Single specialist club. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately for me, Jimmy, my team knocked out of the playoffs, so I will actually be on the call in Newport Beach and also in New York and Central Park. So
it's rough to go to Newport, New York.
Yeah, I know it. So not a bad consolation prize for me to at least be in the mix, in the booth for these incredible matchups that we're going to have for the next 2 weekends. And I think we pretty much broke everything down, and I look forward to breaking it down again early next week for everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope, fingers crossed, that this is, I'm always rooting for a little bit of an upset, right? I think that everybody wants to see that Shock Fives matchup, right? Everyone's excited to see it. It's going to be electric, but I wouldn't hate if we saw some sort of upsets in there, right? I wouldn't, if LA got hot and we saw freaking Ben Johns just go nuts, if Brooklyn got healthy and you see 4 just, top 10 players on one team, like, it'd be fun to watch. Even Columbus, same thing. So, like I said, the Shock Fives would be incredible and be exciting. And there's no losers in this, but let's see if we can get some upsets this week in Newport.
I think that's just natural to hope for some upsets or root for the underdog. That's very American, and I can't blame you for that. So I think it, like I said, it's going to be a very exciting 2 weekends, and happy to break it down for everybody. We will see you next week.